Hello there and welcome to Coming to Hamilton. My name is Daniel Hyams and I'm so excited about today's show. I'm like a coiled spring that we're going to dive right into it and introduce to you my first of two guests today, Krista Boyer.
Hello, Daniel.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to talk about your new project, but before we get to that, let's talk a little bit about you.
What would you like to know?
What would I like to know? What do you think of me? No. What I would like to know. Tell us about where you're from and what brought you to Hamilton.
Well, I would say, truthfully, I was born up north in a small community called Wawa, or Mishpekana Township. I spent 10 years of my life there, followed by a bit in Bracebridge, and then finally Niagara. That's where I spent a good portion of my life. And I came to Hamilton on a whim. Several years ago, 13 years ago, on a whim. A friend of mine had a room for me in her place, so I decided Hamilton was going to be a layover to the next place. And
it's been a long layover.
It's been a long layover, yes.
So tell us a little bit about what you're doing here in Hamilton.
Presently, for work-wise, I am a realtor. I work with Ambitious Realty Advisors. I mostly focus on income properties and on commercial properties, and then in my spare time I like to do a lot of community endeavors.
A real estate agent has spare time?
Yes, I find it. I make it. I have no life. Other than work and community, I have no life.
I don't believe that. But one of the things that I do want to talk about is a new project that you have founded and starting up called Try Hamilton.
Yes.
So before we talk more about Try Hamilton, tell us a little bit about the background of what Try Hamilton is all about.
The purpose of Try Hamilton, when it came to fruition, the idea was to create a spotlight. We recognize, and this was led in discussion with Joe Muto from Economic Developments, the need to really showcase the potential in Barton and Kenilworth. Mind you, in our initial conversations, we didn't think it was going to take the life that it now has taken on. Mm-hmm. And part of that was my vision for it. I wanted bigger and better. And again, like it was just looking at an area that has been overlooked and yet is being talked about, and just trying to push that cusp.
What's being said about Barton and Kenilworth? What's the things that you've heard?
It's the up-and-coming next area to be in Hamilton as far as the potential for both commercial and residential development. It is a major throughway between two major bookends in Hamilton and the downtown core between Ottawa and James Street. So Barton's giving huge opportunity for that as well. And then with our LRT coming in long term, you know, you're looking at another area that's going to become greater utilized. Mm-hmm,
mm-hmm. So let's talk about how you started up this project, and then we're going to go to a short promotional video that that was made specially for this show with the laundry design. I'll talk about that in a minute. Hold your horses. But Try Hamilton. So you came up with this idea. How did even the title come to you?
Well, it was more along the idea of the concepts, because we were discussing as far as, you know, what is it that we want people to experience? What is it that we're trying to resolve here? And it was really about creating an experience. We wanted people to try Hamilton. So it was born out of that need, that desire to share and to ask people, you know, either what have you tried or what do you need to try in Hamilton?
Great, great. We have the video that we're going to share with you. So this was specially produced and created with in partnership with the Laundry Media Design, which is on King Street.
King Street in the International Village.
Thank you.
Gorgeous storefront.
So let's go to that video and then we'll talk a little bit about Try Hamilton when we come back after this.
Try Hamilton is an event that was born out of a simple conversation I had with a gentleman, Joe Muto, from City Hall last year at the Barton Street Festival. He approached me to talk about a real estate crawl, and we quickly saw that it was bigger than that. We needed to do something bigger than that. We needed to focus on the Barton and Kenilworth areas, and we needed to focus on change and attitudes and inclusiveness. So Try Hamilton was born not just exclusively from that conversation, but it was born out of the efforts of a very dedicated group of individuals who see the potential that exists in that area and the successes that exist outside of it.
I run my own company. It's called True Hamiltonian. We make Hamilton-friendly apparel.
So I am the owner-operator of Cafe Aranya Incorporated, one of a small community of independent local coffee shops.
I own an interior design company called Niche for Design and an office supply company called Hamilton Office Pro.
I run a hospitality entity. We have restaurants and golf courses, and also I do a little bit of development, real estate development on the side.
So I run Donut Monster, donut shop without a shop. So we do wholesale relationships with independent cafes and grocery stores in Hamilton and in the region. Been waiting forever for a really big influx of new commercial development, and it's coming, and it is happening, and it's going.
It's a city of opportunity right now. It's a city that's wide open to try. Now it's a hub for arts. It's a hub for small businesses. It's amazing there now. Everyone goes there.
Upon moving here, I realized that it was a perfect market and that the entrepreneurial vibe in Hamilton was so great for starting up businesses.
There's great opportunity to redevelop old buildings as well as to work with the city to launch new projects.
I would like to see more businesses come in. I'd like to see the areas become inhabited by families and young entrepreneurs and professionals, and inclusive environments in those areas. Try Hamilton.
That was incredible. And you're wearing the same shirt.
I'm wearing the same shirt. That was planned. Yes, it's my staple shirt now. It's all I can afford.
That video was specially produced for this show in partnership with the Laundry Design Works. Yes. I actually got the title wrong before. And the Laundry is a media and branding company, advertising company that's based in the International Village, King Street East. They are fantastic. I have to say, I'm really enjoying working with them. They put together that video especially for this show. So it'll only be seen on here. Really happy to work. And we should give a shout out to the participants, to Max Francis, True Hamiltonian. Yes. Jason Cassis from Aberdeen Tavern.
Yes. Erica McKay from Niche for Design.
Yeah.
Chris Goldwatt from Cafe Aranya. I always say it wrong. Did I say it right?
I don't know.
Yes. And Ruben from the Donut Monster.
We'll ask the Dutch guest afterwards if we said that right. And you find out who that's going to be in a moment. Yeah. But it was really wonderful. So let's talk about this project.
Okay. What would you like to know?
Well, tell us about
it.
Tell us what's to expect on June 25th?
So June 25th, the idea for June 25th is twofold. We're looking to create a community event. So essentially, we've selected 5 areas within the city. One is already established as the Barton Street Village Festival at Woodland Parks. And then 4, we're creating these different stations. They all have different themes. It's open to the public. We have dedicated buses that will tour people throughout these different locations. And the idea is to establish a really clean and clear representation of the potential that exists in the Barton and Kenilworth areas, as well as the already created success stories that exist.
So what are your hopes for Try Hamilton? As the founder, as the person that came up with this idea, and I think it's a tremendous idea, I really do, where do you hope it's going to go, or do you hope it's going to go anywhere?
My vision for it now includes a spotlight approach. I'd like to take what we do for Barton Kenilworth, and mind you, we'll have to see on the 26th what type of success we receive, but I'd like to take that spotlight and move it around the city. And I'd like to include an event as well as a real estate crawl, to have those two worlds combined, where we can, as a holistic community development type of approach, look at these areas and look at ways to...
So this is not a one-off?
This is not a one-off.
No, it's just being focused on Barton and Kenilworth for now.
Yes.
And the plan is to expand to other parts of the city and really bring attention and why Try Hamilton?
Try Hamilton.
Thank you for being here. Thank you again to the Laundry for producing that short clip. Let's talk about the Try Hamilton event in terms of putting it on the camera screen, TV thing, so that you can see what's going on. The website is tryhamilton.ca. Please do go to it. It's a wonderful, wonderful event. It's a wonderful project. My earpiece is falling out. So thank you so much, Krista, for being here. I really, really wish you all the best.
Thank you.
And good luck with it. I'm really excited.
Thank you again for having me. This
was
fun.
Absolute pleasure. Coming back, or when we come back from the break, I should say, you can tell that we're doing this live. There is a very special guest who I'm so thrilled has found time to be on this show. When we come back from the break, find out. So in the meantime, go to the kitchen, put a cuppa on. That means boil the kettle, and find out shortly who the guest is. See you shortly.
Emergency alerts of life-threatening events help keep us safe. That's why governments and broadcasters have come together to bring more alerts to more Canadians faster. Introducing Alert Ready, Canada's new emergency alert system. When an alert is broadcast, it's time to act. Learn more at alertready.ca.
Let your kids know, in some cases, what they do with their phones could be more than just wrong. It could be illegal. Learn more online. A message from the Government of Canada.
Welcome back. I am very, very pleased to introduce to you my very special guest, Mayor Fred Eisenberger.
Daniel, good to see you.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here, and especially thank you for finding time in your busy schedule to accommodate us.
Make time for you, Daniel.
Appreciate that. Yeah. Appreciate that. So, you do a number of shows on Cable 14, including The Mayor's View, which is your own show with Mike Fortune. I want to really depoliticize this interview. I don't know if depoliticize is a word. In my book, it is now.
It is.
Is it?
Yeah, it is, actually.
It is.
Yeah.
We've created a word.
Yeah.
So I really want to talk more about you and the fact that you are, after Larry Diani, the second non-born in Canada mayor of Hamilton.
Second immigrant mayor. Yes.
Second immigrant mayor and the longest serving thus far.
Here's my line: the longest serving mayor since amalgamation.
Okay, I'll let you have that.
That's actually technically true.
Well, congratulations for that.
Thanks.
So let's go back to the beginning. What brought you to Canada and why Hamilton?
Well, I tagged along with my parents. Obviously, I was an 8-year-old, and family of 6, 7, 5 and 2, 7. Yeah. Wow, rough math there. So at that time in the early 60s or late 50s, Holland was still offering incentives for people to leave the country. This is post-war. Times were hard. The country couldn't support everybody that was there, so they were offering incentives for folks to go. And so my dad, bravely, I think, like many other immigrants did, decided that they were going to choose between Canada, Australia, and the United States, and chose Canada.
There's no choice.
We found out. We found out at about 16 or 17, and Australia was on the list, and we kind of went, huh? Like winter, Australia, beaches, blonde, come on. Yes, Canada was obviously an excellent choice, and for him, he was a plumber, steam fitter, so industry was important. That's where the jobs would be, and so he came first. Landed himself here, had some housing, some temporary housing with some other Dutch folks that were, part of a network that helped one another get established. And then the Van Gents, actually, who are still friends of mine. Actually, Bernadette Curtis is a Van Gent, and she is one of Ted McMeekin's political assistants. And so we we immigrated together. And then once my dad was set and he had rented a place and had a job. Job ended up being at the International Harvester, and that turned into J.I. Case. He called for the family, and over we went by boat to Halifax, and from Halifax into the CN station by train, and then hello Hamilton.
Hello Hamilton.
Hello Hamilton.
So what do you remember about growing up in Hamilton?
Most of my growing up was done in Hamilton, and it was absolutely fabulous. We lived, we lived in a geared income housing mostly. First landing was at Stanley Avenue, just down the street off of Locke. Rented a home with a number of other families. And then the second stop was geared income housing down at the East End, the far East End, and around Reed Avenue, Lang Street. And we were there for a lot of years, but great place to grow up, great schools. The transition for kids is not terribly difficult, I don't think. Moms and dads, it's a really difficult journey, especially when you've got 5 kids in tow and you don't know the language and you've got to learn all of that. So ironically, my dad, when he was at International Harvester, learned most of his English from a chap from Manchester, England. So he had a Manchester English accent. Absolute God's truth. When he spoke English, it was Manchester English
Mancunian accent. It's like being on Coronation Street.
That's right. And he chummed around with what was his name? Maurice Flynn from Manchester, and they were great pals for all of their lives, and well established themselves in a career in International Harvester. But because he was an immigrant, he didn't get the accreditation for the learning and studying he did in Holland, which is a typical story today still.
Still a big problem.
In some areas, not in all areas, but in many. And took him 15, 16, 17 years to actually become a full-fledged steam fitter. So it wasn't. It was a different lifestyle than it was in Holland for sure. They never regretted for a day the move. They loved the country and enjoyed the outdoors. So we traveled all over the place, all over the province, camping and. Across the country, in fact, enjoying every part of Canada. They were just in love with Canada, and finally got after about 20 years or so, a piece of the prosperity that immigration brings for many people over time, and so that's the
because
story.
It is over time. I think that. You don't get off the plane and or off the boat or off the train and the success is waiting. I think that it is very much a personal endeavour.
Yeah, for many people. I mean, there are many people that come to the country today that have a ready-made job. That's one of the criteria is when you come to the country. Either you have a pool of money that you can set up a business with, or you have a job already lined up for you, and you immigrate to that. That wasn't very prevalent then. It was more of a mass migration that was happening at the time between the 1945 and 1960. I would say we were at the tail end of the immigration wave from England and from Italy and from the European countries. A lot of Germany and Holland specifically. Today, the immigration is not so much from those countries. Last 15 years or so, been a lot from Poland. A lot of Polish immigrants have come, and East Indian folks. And
so there's a lot of talk about your vision, and particularly in your capacity as mayor. But what is your vision as a private citizen, as one of the over 500,000 residents of Hamilton? What is your vision for the city?
Kind of hard to separate it from my political, but my vision for the city is very much an interactive, socially dynamic places to live, play, and work and habitate. So, providing jobs is critically important for a municipality. Providing good entertainment spaces and places, creating a kind of a creative arts, cultural vibe, incredibly important for modern cities today, and then public transportation and all of that. So I think the cities need to be built. They don't just arrive. They don't just kind of happen organically. You have to actually plan it out and map out what you want it to be.
So in a way, it's about looking so far ahead. I mean, it's really looking, I think, a generation or even 2 generations ahead.
On many issues, that's true. I mean, it takes, this morning I was at a presentation at the extended management team for the City of Hamilton, about 150 folks in that middle management category, talking about waterfront development. My first touch with waterfront development was 1991, is when I started, working and visioning and along with others, many others, on how do we get to Pier 7 and 8 and how do we get development happening there. So they are long-term projects. You're really building the next city for the next generation.
It reminds me of a Greek proverb, an anonymous Greek proverb that says society grows when old men plant trees of the shade. Not saying that you're old, Fred.
No.
There's a compliment in there.
Yes, no, that's absolutely true. So the challenge in politics is always, and we don't want to politicize, but it's politics is local, immediate. What have you done for me today or tomorrow?
Of course.
But for me, it's always been what are we working towards longer term? What are we going to build so that future generations can look back and say, yeah, we dealt with climate change, or yes, we did revamp our harbor and make it cleaner so that we can enjoy it more. I mean, those are long-term issues that are much more difficult to get your head around, but much more important for the long-term viability of the city.
I have to say this, and I've sort of started a habit of speaking my mind. And
first time? No,
It's unusual
I don't
for
think
me.
so. I don't think so.
It's unusual for me. I personally want to commend you because your career as a politician has been very much focused in Hamilton, and you've stayed in Hamilton for the most part of it. And I think that there is a perception, not just here in Hamilton or in Canada, I think across the globe, that our elected officials, particularly those that reach the senior levels of the political ladder, that they're from the right side of the tracks, that they have a silver spoon in their mouth, that they perhaps come from a family dynasty. And you really defy that. I really find that very commendable.
Yeah, you know, in the grand scheme of things, I mean, you know, would you have picked, if you ask folks in high school that I went to high school with, and my high school reunion, and this is going to make me feel really old, is a 50th high school reunion coming up next year.
We'll leave the interview there,
really,
shall we?
Which is really scary, yeah.
You got two compliments off me as well today.
If you would ask them, you know, who would you pick for mayor or a councillor or some, you know, some leading person, that wouldn't have been me. By virtue of either demographic or economics, or even in terms of you know, kind of shy and kind of retiring kind of personality.
But it is you.
I had then.
It is you.
But
I'm glad.
But it is, and you know what? It it was kind of an acquired, developed thing that came along very nicely.
We could talk for hours.
Yeah.
We will carry this on in the green room. But thank you so much, Your Worship, for being
already?
here. We're done.
Wow.
I made it painless, didn't I?
Can't we do another 25?
We could. We
Okay.
could. We'll do like
All right.
the extended version for the DVD.
Yeah.
See, Mike doesn't do this as painlessly as this, does he?
No. Well, no, he does.
Well,
No,
you're done.
no,
You're
no,
done. You're
absolutely
done.
he does.
You're
He's
done.
wonderful.
Switch him off. I really want to thank you all for tuning in, and I really want to thank Cable 14 for letting me loose on the airwaves. This is probably a first for Canadian television. I want to thank all of my guests that have been a part. Today's show is the last of 5 episodes. Whether we'll be back or not, tweet in and we'll find out. Thank you all to the viewers for watching. I just came up just before we filmed. Cable 14 awarded me the Volunteer of the Month, which I was very, can't really see it very well, but that's really sweet, and I was really appreciative of that. So thank you for that. You know, I'll say one more thing, and a couple of weeks ago I met someone, she came to me in a public place and said, I really love your show, and she knew about all of the guests, so she knew about every single one of the guests, and said, what I love about what you're doing is that you stand up for people that are different. And that was probably one of the nicest, the nicest, most complimentary thing that I've ever heard. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I really appreciate it. Talking of Dutch, we had a question before. Café Oranje, how do you say it?
Oranje.
We were half
pretty
right.
close. Pretty spot on, yeah.
I'll see you very soon. Thank you for joining me. Take care of yourselves.